Hello, Corey. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm a little under the weather today. Stacy and I had some sort of stomach issue pop up, hit us both. Probably something we ate. So if I'm a little pale and shaky and all that, it was kind of an interesting night, just of no sleep. Looking forward to doing a Q&A. I think we're going to do a general Q&A. And I think also today, depending on how many people are live with us, I'm also willing to take some questions about some of these projects that I'm doing. There seems to be a lot of different opinions and questions and people wondering different things. So I wouldn't mind answering some of your questions on these projects as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And for people who are joined live, you can ask questions and answers on the Q&A tab. And I should be monitoring that. And I'll move back and forth between the questions that were submitted ahead of time, a month, going maybe 2 months ahead of time here, the ones that haven't been addressed.
And people that watch the video later, they can ask their questions too about what I'm doing with these different projects, and we can talk about it more at a later date.
Yep. And you can always go to essentialworks.tv/questions and get your questions in there too.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess starting off talking about the projects, man, the last 2 years trying to work on getting some of these shows out has been quite the roller coaster. I had with a person who's helped me quite a bit, who's a public figure, we had a show greenlit, then a merger happened and it fell through, a network merger. Then, we just had, it's just been very weird in the entertainment business the last couple of years. I've come up with a number of show ideas that some of these big networks are excited about. And they've invited us to do actual pitch meetings. We've been interviewing production companies all around the United States. And next week, we should make our decision on which one we're going to go with, and then sign a production deal with them. And then within a couple of weeks, I would presume there will be a press release. And we're pitching some interesting shows. One of them that I'm very proud of is what I'm working on with James Gilliland, ECETI Ranch Portals. James has had so many people, so many crews come out and really just kind of jerk him around and not really take his claims and his ranch and everything that's going on seriously. So for the first time, he's going to completely, open up his ranch, and our production company is going to come in and videotape with special cameras all of the lights in the skies. Try to communicate with them since they respond to laser lights, study the geology on Mount Adams, and the different reports of UAPs and Bigfoot and that sort of thing. And James is going to be given an opportunity to really tell his story and his metamorphosis that he went through. So I'm excited for that. And if it does well, it could open up a lot of things for James as well, which is, my goal, to help him become self-sufficient from a lot of controlling people in this community, we'll call it. And then, of course, y'all have heard me talk about the Alien Mania series, the Subculture War for Disclosure. And it covers basically the community, everything from the nuts and bolts guys that only believe in, Roswell and those only want to talk about those sorts of things, all the way over to the contactees and abductees. And then from them, we'll talk about the LARP phenomenon. The LARPers have borrowed liberally from the stories of actual abductees and contactees, and have created this whole LARPing new genre that that they're living it as truth, So it's the whole disclosure movement has really changed in the last 3 or 4 years. So we're going to cover some very interesting aspects of the community, all sides. And let's see, there was another. Working on actually one about abductees, and there's a number of people in the community I'll be working with who have been abductees to tell their story. So we got like a few shows that are getting attention, and a couple other shows that are so unique that I don't want to say anything about them because they would be easily ripped off. But I have an award-winning showrunner that's working with me. I don't want to give her name right now, but she's won a Golden Telly for other paranormal shows. She has been helping me navigate the entertainment industry and not get ripped off or end up under evil people or working with evil people. She's been really good. So I think that when we do launch these shows, it's going to give our community another opportunity to evolve, because whether we end up on A&E, History Channel, Netflix, this information is going to be seen by a much, much larger group of people, tens of millions more people. And it's going to cause them to be curious, and they're going to start coming and looking into what's going on in the community and different people's information, hopefully join Ascension Works TV. So, the things that I'm doing are beneficial to me and my cause, but we're doing it in a way that we hope will be beneficial to the community, allowing people in the community who have been ripped off by Hollywood and the entertainment industry for years, allowing them to come in, make a living, and tell their story in an authentic way. So that's the direction we've kind of gone with some of these unscripted properties. I have an investor who wants to invest in our Mars video game. It's half completed. It takes us a little over $5 million to complete it. That same party is also interested in signing an agreement for some of our television shows that are related to the video game. So things are moving along in the video game and unscripted arena. And I'm starting to talk with various investors to create an entertainment company here in Boulder that will focus on all of these things that I'm talking about, and also branching out to, include people like in South America, other places who have experiences, but we don't normally hear their stories. We hear the same people over and over. So I think that kind of covers it with these projects. I get a lot of questions. Some people don't understand this or whatever. So I'm going to answer people's questions today and at a future date, in addition to the questions that you've had set aside.
Great. Yeah. There's so many interesting things in this community that have almost been, I don't know if it's that the entertainment industry has been afraid or just unaware of how they could possibly talk about someone like James Gilliland. And it's almost like his information is so, it's so in your face that you can actually just make contact that easily. That all the mystery is almost just goes away because it's like he's living it so much.
Yeah, he's had people out on the ranch that were parts, that were connected, in Hollywood and doing these types of shows, and they just don't focus on what the real story is. And that's what our showrunner said in a couple of these interviews we've done with production companies. They're not showing the authentic story that's going on out at the ranch, and he has quite a story to tell over decades, and and it's going to lead off into the other mountain ranges out there. He is surrounded by incredible locations that have all sorts of paranormal histories behind them. The Cascadia, I think it's the mountain range that Mount Adams is a part of. There's Mount Hood, Mount Rainier, and Mount St. Helens. And all four of those are volcanoes. A lot of people don't know. And volcanoes are connected to the global grid and portal systems. There's a big connection. And Kenneth Arnold in 1947 saw the modern UFO, had the modern UFO sighting of a fleet of craft that he said skipped like saucers on the water. And that's where flying saucers, that's where it was coined, was right in the mountain range that you can see from his mountain, Mount Adams. Mount Hood, I mean, there's so much missing people, Bigfoot, other weird cryptids, higher numbers of hauntings and stronger types of hauntings in some of those regions that has to do with the energetics of the mountains. So yeah, we're looking forward to really covering this in a very fun way. It's not going to be totally scientific. We're going to cover the scientific, but we're also going to look into the woo-woo, as they say in these interviews I keep going. I've been on. They keep calling the subject woo-woo, but yeah, I think this is a time to where people. I mean, with all the UAP news that's been coming out, people are curious who wouldn't normally be curious. So people who wouldn't normally look at a movie or a TV show with the title ESETI Ranch Portals, a lot more are beginning to open up to it, and they may watch the show, on a whim, and then be pulled further into the rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's so great. And it is also great to be able to transform the current state of the community and what people kind of think of as the community, because the community of people who are interested in these subjects is so much vastly larger than the number of people who know about you or know about disclosure events or conferences that are happening. Like these events are very, very tiny compared to the overall population that is interested.
Yeah, it's literally preaching to the choir. If you just stay within the community, putting your message out to the community, you're preaching to the choir. You're not getting out there and making a difference. You're not working for actual disclosure. It's just becomes like a club thank you, sweetie, or a religion.
Yeah. Corey, I would really like to ask you. So it seems like your life, you're shown a lot of things, just about humanity in general, to kind of prepare you to be like almost like a model of this. This is just humanity right now. It's almost like you're a mirror for so many aspects of our consciousness because of what you're synchronistically shown. And I wanted to ask you about your history with religion and what specifically you saw in religious contexts, because it seems as though that just is showing you about what just happens with people in general when there's unusual, crazy beliefs.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised, my grandfather was a minister. My parents divorced when I was, like 5. And so we moved in, and he was a big part of my life up until teenage years. And a big part of him is a part of me. I even went to school where I met Stacy, Southern Nazarene University, to be a minister. So I definitely have that lens. And so the question is, Blue Avians and the others, when they communicated information to me, did I interpret that through my lens of perception and alter it in any way? Or did they give the information to me in a way that they knew I would understand according to my lens of perception? That's the big thing right now. We have so many people out there. I'm in touch with the Pleiadians. I'm in touch with the Galactic Federation. Nobody else but me, Galactic Federation. And it's all turned into a pseudo-religious movement. It's not disclosure. I have moved away from sharing certain types of information. I have, just because I have seen how most of the community consumes it and what they do with it. And it is bizarre. It is bizarre. It has not been received as intended. And it's not just the community, it's the human condition. We're so programmed to turn everything into a religion, to look for a savior. And man, has this community done that. They've turned this disclosure movement into a religion. Extraterrestrials have taken the place of angels and demons. The universe is God. And they're all about creating their own timeline or future to where all of these beautiful esoteric things come true. But I've told people from the beginning, disclosure is a messy, scary, horrifying process. It's not a kumbaya moment. The stuff that's going to come out there's going to be scary stuff. And just because there's scary stuff doesn't mean it's fear porn and from the dark side and being used to control us. These people that are whistleblowers, there are like 30 or 40 more that are working under with Grush. And they're going to be coming out over the months. These people are coming out giving true disclosures. Where the spin happens is after it leaves their lips, and then you have the media or people on the internet that believe all aliens are good, or people on the internet that believe this or that. Everyone has an interest in spinning that information to match their narrative. Everyone. That is how compromised humanity is on this topic. And, if you have made a religion of the Galactic Federation or these different ETs or whatever, more power to you. You have every right in the world to do so. But people need to learn to separate that from what is happening here in the real world, the disclosures that are coming out. These people are risking their lives. I know for a fact that multiple times they've been denied skiff rooms to give this classified information over to Congress. There's a group working within the government to prevent this congressional law from passing, whistleblower law having to do with UFOs. They expect that to be held up. There's a major pushback happening from within the government. And the question is why? They're either spinning it or denying it. But what you really need to pay attention to is when the information comes out, who is saying what. If you subscribe to the Galactic Federation or Pleiadians or whatever these different groups, religions basically that have popped up in ufology, and the minute you hear that, you think of this character on the internet that has sparkly eyes and talks love and light and talks about how they're coming here to save us from the Greys and all of that. And the minute you hear you've been poisoned, if once you've bought into all of this certain type of mumbo jumbo of co-creating the next timeline, you're missing out on what's happening on this timeline. And it's a mess. It's a mess. And the general population is not having any easier of a time than the community is when it comes to this stuff. Everybody is going to try to filter the information through their lens. There are extremely conservative Christians. They're sitting there listening to the congressional hearings. And when he talks about negative ETs hurting people, that's demons to me, What's the difference? So people are hearing it. If you have a Muslim or all these different people hearing the same information, it's going through their filter. And it's going to be very interesting to witness disclosure, as it's happening right now. And, they're only going to be able to get to a certain level disclosing what they're doing now without these 30 or 40 people coming out. And they need this whistleblower law. That's what these real whistleblowers that are waiting in the background are waiting for. And that's the purpose of Grush doing what he's doing. It is to create a situation to where creating a whistleblower bill would be more likely. And then after him, he is just treading the way. He doesn't have any firsthand experiences. And all the people that are behind him waiting for, him to make certain dominoes fall, they're all going to come out at that point. And all of these people have real evidence that would get them thrown in prison or killed. Some of them can come out and put little spins on their information if they wanted, kind of like I did, so I didn't get killed. They can do that, but these people, they witnessed what happened in the disclosure community, how vicious and horrible it is, disgusting. And they decided that they wanted nothing to do with the disclosure community because look how they will be treated. So what they did is they totally rebranded UFOs and aliens into UAPs and non-human intelligence. And as more and more comes out, you're going to see they're going to divorce further and further away from the disclosure community, who thinks they have the real disclosure, which is like, by now there's like 20 different offshoots of people telling stories and leading people down these crooked paths.
So one thing you just said there is that you came out with little spins to make sure you didn't get killed. And are you talking about like names of programs that would be too specific?
Yeah, names of people, names of programs, slightly change, different people involved. I wouldn't have made it as long as I did if I had just told the actual name for Dark Fleet and how it worked and everything. I wouldn't have lasted very long. But yeah, I mean, the people that are about to come out, there's about 30 or 40 of them. I've heard 40 by someone I trust, but when that information comes out, it is going to corroborate so much of what I said and what I have said, except the details are going to be slightly different. You're going to hear real names of things. You're going to hear more of the details, and people are going to say, "Hey, how did Corey know all this?" It's just slightly little changed details, and those are the details that allowed me to stay out in the public. When I leaked, the two biggest things is when I tried to do the unity in the community. The plan was to unify the community for this time, so everyone would be unified, out with our signs, on our email campaigns, doing all of these different things to back up the people that are coming out. But the unity in the community thing just was a major backfire. There was something else I was going to say. But releasing the DIA reference documents about wormholes and portals, that is when, if you look at we have all these timelines for our lawsuits and for our new TV show. And if you look at the timelines, we have, it's all mapped out. Right after I released those documents, that's when all hell broke loose. And all of these various characters pulled out all stops in trying to destroy me.
Mm-hmm. So you said there are a lot of these specific details that you were just sitting on. What percentage of those details that could be verifiable does David Wilcock know?
I told David some things that I didn't tell the public, but people like David that work in the circuit, they tend to talk, and they'll tell each other, "Okay, I'm going to tell you something. You don't tell anybody else." And the person's like, "Oh, okay," and they hear it. I've seen this, and then that person, kind of says, "You know what? I'm making an executive decision. This is something my buddy needs to know." So they go and they tell their buddy. And then the story changes slightly each time, but at the same time, it gets out. So yeah, there's stuff that I didn't even trust David with. Um, but I did give him a lot more details than I was able to publicly. Yeah, I guess that answers the question.
Well, it does bring up the question of whether or not there'd be value in having like an encrypted file that is only releasable with a special password that's not released to the public, and then it can be verified. That's one idea we can talk about.
Yeah, the whole point why I'm doing the different TV shows, all the stuff that I'm doing is I've done my whistleblower job. I put the information out there. It's going to be validated over the coming few years, and people will come back to it and notice the correlations. I got the ball rolling. I put this stuff into the mass consciousness. All the ufology department field wanted to talk about was little green men and crash saucers. Now, all of them are talking about secret aspects of the secret space program, and it's evolved things. So I did my job. I was here to drop some stuff into the mass consciousness, like I've told everyone from the beginning. And I was here to try to organize the community to back up these alliances that are doing disclosures. And, that it failed. It failed. I had too many people, operatives and just egomaniacs, jealous egomaniacs working against a unification. Because this community would have become too dangerous if it unified. So it had to be destroyed and split up. So that is what has happened. And it's not a force for anything right now. It's just an echo chamber. What needs to happen, and you and I are talking, we're going to do a webinar to try to retrain the community how they can be a part of real disclosure, how to pull themselves out of these little crooked paths of love and light stories that have completely alienated the disclosure community from disclosure, which is happening. And it's going to happen more next year, and it's just going to keep unrolling. You guys can be a part of it, or you can sit back and be a part of your fanciful little stories and say, no, that's too dark. I can't take it. I'm creating a reality to where that's just not. I mean, you're welcome to it, but you're not going to be a part of real disclosure. You're not. So people need to decide, am I going to be a force for disclosure, or do I just want to sit back and hear stories about being liberated and about how these various beautiful different ETs are fighting the evil forces for us? You can put your head in the sand and sit out this incarnation if you want. Those of you who want to, seriously, you've been involved in activism, going out to, gone out to actual Air Force bases and handed out literature, and I think DVDs.
Yep.
So, we're going to really discuss in this webinar different ways that you can become an activist for disclosure, and not just, one of the disclosure religious communities choir members, which is fine. Everyone's entitled to their own religious beliefs and religions. But just like the right-wing Christian groups that people like to crap on in this community, you're repeating the same thing. You're allowing fundamentalist kind of ideas and hopefulness to divorce you from reality and being a part of disclosure, which is isn't that what the hell you're here for? Aren't you here to be a part of disclosure? Or are you here to be a part of a lot of really cool stories? And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're just here for a cosmic soap opera, that's perfectly fine. The LARPers will feed that need, and it's entertainment. It really is. But actual physical disclosure, activism, people that have the guts to take part in this reality to try to change it are needed right now. So we're going to do a webinar in the near future, telling people how they can organize and make a difference.
Yep, I'm very excited to get that announced. We can get more details, and
Yes.
explain more what the strategy is here, because there is so much people can do. And I think this is also about like mission and purpose and why we're incarnated here at this particular time, to not just hear stories, but actually be a part of the change, be a part of the disclosure, become the disclosure that we're wanting to see as things are shifting so quickly now.
Right.
So we can move on now to viewer submitted questions here. We had a question that was about technologies used by ETs, and how the consciousness technology works with controlling ships, and do they use like computer systems to navigate like we do, or is there a different level with consciousness technologies?
Well, their technologies are, my brain is slipping, like a prosthetic. Like if you uh, lose an arm, it's a prosthetic. It connects in, but it becomes a part of them. The ship becomes like an extension of their consciousness. They're not experiencing the inside of a cockpit. They're experiencing as the ship. And these ships work through conscious thought and willing and in that type of action. But another thing that one of the things, this technology, it works also like radar. You know how if you're in a mall or a shopping center, and you'll feel someone looking at you, and you turn and you'll see someone's looking at you? It is that technology. It's the moment you are aware of them, they are aware of you. And it's a very powerful tool for them, not only when they're in conflicts, but just navigating the different planets that they go to. It's handled through conscious interface. They don't have levers or pulleys and all of those crazy things. There aren't really any real moving parts on most of these craft either. And some of the craft exists within another dimension. So if you look at a craft, you're not seeing all of it. Some of it exists partially within another dimension as well. It's going to be interesting to see how this stuff is explained to the public from the nuts and bolts guys that are coming out behind Rush.
Yeah. So we got a question, I'm sure, it's on a lot of people's minds that were just submitted. Corey, can you tell us what is the main cause of the forest fires in Canada and in the US? Do you think the main cause of these fires might be to do with directed energy weapons?
I have been hearing from sources that directed energy weapons have been used not only to start fires in various countries, but they're also being, we're kind of in a weather war with China. We've hit them with 2 typhoons, and I think they're going to make sure that what was going to be a busy hurricane season for us is going to be even more busy. We're already at war. Their satellites are destroying each other. There are all sorts of things going on that most people don't know about. And the satellite warfare is pretty advanced, what they have going on. And they have, China has a pearl string of satellites that shoot microwave lasers into the atmosphere in different areas. And they're spaced apart in their orbit to where, like, if there's one region, a hurricane, as they go by, they start hitting the hurricane in a certain area that makes it stronger. And then as this one goes away, it stops shooting the beam, and then the next one comes across. And they use those same types. Those same types of satellites can be used to start forest fires or attack buildings that they choose to attack.
I want to ask you a question that I think it's a source of a confusion sometimes when they hear, they've heard, I think it was Henry Deacon even talked about the idea that China and the US are ultimately, like, at the level of the cabal, they're already unified, they're already working together. and the apparent idea of warfare is something that's just happening on a lower level in order to keep the money machine going with weapons creation and all that. Do you feel that
That's
that's the
true.
case?
That's true. But in the people down on the level doing the warfare don't know that that the Chinese and Russians, Americans, Indians are all sitting around the same board table for this giant super corporation that they've formed.
Mhm.
That is completely off planet. That the corporation, it was some sort of new type of corporation that they formed to allow that corporation and the board to control all of the corporate assets off planet. And they're all working together on the highest level.
So is it fair to say it's in no one's best interests that a large scale nuclear war would ever occur on Earth? Because this keeps the money machine going?
Depends on who you're talking about. There are serious efforts to lower the population through disease and war. And while they're lowering the population through disease and war, if a country gets destroyed, well, the country that developed the weapons also are the same people who are contracted to come in and do the work. So it's a big scam. The BRICS nations are sick of it. They're making major moves that it's about to collapse the dollar. People don't know what's happening. It's bad. BRICS is coming together to destroy the dollar. They've had enough, and these people know about this super corporation. They've learned about it, and they don't like that they're subjugated to this giant corporation. And every country on the planet is subjugated to it. And these people are breaking away. They're fighting a bigger machine than we have any idea. But they're the possibility for a pretty decent sized war is being talked about heavily. And it's something I don't speak about very often, but I hear about all of the different movements going on in the background, about different things that would contribute to a war, like things going on in China, the collapse of our economy, and a global economy. They're dependent on us. So all of their factories are not producing right now. A lot of their people are becoming homeless and jobless. They had these floods. This was all after COVID. China is in a rough spot, and typically countries like when they're trying to pull out of a depression, a war is usually a good engine to do so. So there's a number of reasons why there is likely going to be some sort of war, this is not going to be like any other war. People are all worried we're going to have like a repeat of World War II, but with newer technology. I'd say about 60% of this war is being fought through disinformation. They control the airwaves. They're using it to pit people against each other like they did in this community. The rest, I mean, that's a big percentage. And the rest is there's cyber warfare going on that people don't know about, weather warfare. There's warfare in space between the military industrial complex types of groups that have that type of technology. There's a lot going on, and we're basically on a war footing already. It just hasn't broken. It's almost like they all know we're in a war with each other, but they're keeping it a secret. It's like the Chinese aren't saying we're in open war. This is the most bizarre war that most of the people I talk to from the military have ever seen. I mean, it's disinformation, there's false flags. It's nothing. I don't care who you're listening to, what patriot group or this or that. Nobody really knows what's going on. They don't. There's so much bullshit spinning in every direction that it is a hopeless effort to try to figure things out. It really is. Everything I'm hearing in the background, they're telling, stock up on food. There are a number of like the electrical grid being taken out. They found hackers that had gotten into several of the grids. There's a lot of cyber warfare. It's kind of almost like a ransomware. Some of these cyber attackers have gotten into different parts of our infrastructure and taken it over. And we're only able to do things on the periphery of what we normally would be able to control. And, they're trying to find ways to gain back control without other parts of the government or civilians finding out that it's that big of a problem. And there's some of our infrastructure that China, Russia, and North Korea, their cyber people could shut down. They could shut down a lot of our infrastructure, cause a lot of problems. So this is a very different type of war that we're in, not about to be in, that we're in. We're in a global war right now. And it's just not the typical war. It's very atypical of what we've experienced in the past.
Right. And I could say that I think we're actually in a very amazing time for humanity because of how little work we're actually doing for having to work towards our survival, at least in the West, where it's actually much easier to obtain food than it was hundreds of years ago, going back thousands of years. So I think that our expectations are very shifted based on just kind of generations of a certain way of living passing by. And some people have been asking questions. It's kind of an ongoing thing that we have people kind of wondering why are our lives so hard? Why are there any challenges in our lives? And why aren't the ETs coming to make our lives easier so that we can have this very nice reality? And it seems like this is just exactly what we signed up for our spiritual growth purposes.
Yeah, the earth is serving its purpose. It is of this vibration because of our sun and the solar system. It is a very dense twist in the space-time continuum by the vibration of our planet. And it only allows consciousness really to develop to a certain point. And as our solar system goes through an evolution, that what's holding us back, that area to grow, expands. And, that's starting to happen. But why would the ETs come and make our lives easier? What do we learn? I mean, it's stupid. It's stupid to think that ETs are going to be like, oh, these poor people. Let's go down and take away all of these little catalysts that are causing them, to react this way, and do it all for them. And if that ET race leaves and it goes back to their home 1,000 years later, they come back and visit us, they'll just find that we ended up the same way again, just like after the flood. People just go back into that mental illness, that generational mental illness. And that's how these ETs see us. They see us as a mentally ill civilization. And even the best of us are considered pretty much mentally ill compared to, their civilizations. We're very dangerous, unpredictable people. Look how we've turned on each other in this community. While with sparkles in our eyes and saying love and light, I'm a light warrior, stab, 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 Why would they come down here? We're like the biggest show on earth, we're like the big reality TV show for a lot of these groups that were like, wow, this is how we were like many, many millions of years ago. This is a great case study. and then they'll watch how we evolve. And there are some groups that get involved, but they're not really supposed to. Yeah, there's no ET group that's going to come down here and make life better for us. It's not. It's not. And if you're waiting for that, you might as well be waiting for any other prophecy from any other religion. It's not going to happen.
But I do think it's also balanced in some level where we are we're not overwhelmed so that we can't make a difference on this world, and we're not helped so that we can't make a difference in our catalyst to change. So it seems like there's always this balance that we can find to being that change.
Well, it all comes down to, we can't, people in this community, there's a lot of people, they think that if they get a few hundred people together and believe that the negative ETs are gone and we're on our way to a beautiful reality with Angel, I don't know. That is really ridiculous. I'm sorry. If you think that a few hundred people, you're going to change the entire timeline for everyone by telling a bunch of bullshit. The way reality works is that we are all co-creating it together. We can't override someone else's decisions. If the majority of Earth is determined to have a crappy timeline, those of us, like little 3% of us that are light warriors, we are not going to be able to force them into the timeline that we want. It's just not how it works. What happens is each and every individual has been disenfranchised from their real power of co-creating reality, because we all co-create our tiny little bit. We're just little blips. But if enough of us are thinking the same way or feeling the same way, then it shifts the rest of the consciousness. But it has to be a large percentage. It has to be something that changes the momentum in a different direction that consciousness was going. And it's amazing. However your life is, if it's crappy, if it's great, honestly, it's your fault. It's you. No matter what people have done to you, you're not a this victim or a that victim. That's just something that happened to you throughout time as you went through your journey. If you sprain your ankle on a hike, do you go for the rest of your life telling everyone that you have a sprained ankle? No. You heal, you move on, and then you keep going along the path. Everyone has that choice to make. You can choose to remain in your own ignorance and misery, repeating the cycles that your parents and their parents and the ones before them, the generational trauma and ignorance that's passed down. You can choose to wrap yourself in that, or you can take responsibility for your own life and do the work to get over the traumas that are causing you to do this stupid stuff, the patterns, and then start making different choices. There are so many people throughout the different courses I've done. I hear so many excuses. Oh, this happens to me. Oh, the damn reptilians, or they have those energy things up in the sky. There are all of these excuses on why you can't evolve, why you can't change. They put more energy into that than they would have to put into doing the actual change. That is a huge responsibility, but it's also a huge gift. Stacy was listening to a guru the other day. He was saying, isn't it wonderful that you have control over your experience? Because you do. If there are people making your life hell, you have the choice to get away from them. Family, whoever. And you have the choice. You have the choice to create a positive reality for yourself. And if enough people start doing that, it'll start filtering out into the wider mass consciousness and reality. But, being responsible with this incarnation is very important if you want to call yourself a light warrior or a light worker, because, did you come here you're wasting your experience. All the bullshit that happened to you, all of the trauma, that was boot camp. You came here, forgot who you were, went through this boot camp of crap to hone you and make you strong and understand your mission more. If you get lost in the trauma and lose sight of the mission, then you have failed. You have failed. You have come here for a mission, and the dark side was able to subvert you. And you'll be on your deathbed, and you may realize that. And it'll, you know, it's something that could hang with people, you know. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say.
Yeah, that's great. It's nice to have some of those reminders. One quick question here: have you heard of the whistleblower Eric Hecker, who came forward on the Sean Ryan show, which was titled "Antarctica Firefighter for Raytheon"?
Yeah, Stacy worked at Raytheon. That's a very dubious person with some very dubious connections, and that's all I'm going to say.
All right, that's fair.
And none of the stuff that some of the positions that he talks about, Stacy worked at Raytheon for a while, and some of those like positions don't exist. There were a number of things, including people I talked to in the background. He's involved with a lot of the people that are actually, well, I'm not going to go, but I'm just saying, I consider them dubious.
All right. So we had a question here. It seemed to be based on a misunderstanding of something you said. I just want to make sure it's clear for people. You had said that some souls have been brought here because they weren't able to proceed on the evolutionary path on their own planet, so they were brought here. And this person said, "Does this mean they're being kidnapped to being brought to Earth?" And is there? I guess the other question to that is there a higher self or guardians overseeing the process of when souls would even move from planet to planet?
There are negative groups that do it, and there are positive groups that move souls around to different planets to help evolutionary processes. So I don't think there are guardians that are preventing it from happening. It's something that's been going on in this galaxy for a long, long time.
Do you know anything specifically about souls that will be moved from Earth to another planet?
No.
Okay. And we have another question here. I guess this might be a kind of direction some aspects of the community go in when they think of themselves as targeted. But the question is, how would you differentiate between a telepathic technology and something that's more like a voice of God technology that's human-made?
Well, there's no real way to explain that to a true telepath. The voice of God stuff, it vibrates the skull and the brain tissue, and there's a sensation. That's why people that operate that technology, they have the technology used on them, so they know the feeling, they know everything that people are going through. Telepathy occurs in a different part of the brain, and it has a whole different sensation. Unless you've experienced both, I don't know how I would be able to help anyone differentiate.
There's a question here. We've talked a lot about the Law of One books talk about the Orion group as being service to self negative groups. Are you aware of any Orion groups that are positive groups?
No.
Okay. So a lot of people occasionally invoke the term Anunnaki, which is, I know it's meant many different things to many different people when they hear the word Anunnaki, just because they can link it back to the ancient texts. So did you in the programs ever hear the word Anunnaki used or the name Thoth?
Not Thoth, but yeah, Anunnaki was thrown out probably back in the 80s and early 90s more than any other time. The Anunnaki term was thrown around, and also discussions of Nibiru, and then they found out what that really was. It was just a star that passed through. It's not a reoccurring planet or all of these ideas that people in the community have built up from the Zachariah Sitchin stuff. There's not a planet or like that that's just a disruptive planet that comes in. The only thing that happens on a cycle like that is the solar event.
So what did the name Anunnaki mean to people in the programs? Was that a specific group or multiple groups?
They would talk about the Anunnaki coming back in the early days, and this was before they really developed out the secret space program and the corporate conglomerate and all of that. It was still a lot of people were different too back then. Most of them had grown up or had been in the military, were God-fearing military people. And, in the beginning, they were referring to some of these aliens as demons too. I mean, things have evolved quite a bit over time, and the perception of what we're dealing with.
Do you feel that Grush is trustworthy?
Yes.
Is there a way that we would see things deviate? I mean, do you think that there could be people come forward who are not as trustworthy and there could be confusion?
If they come out through anyone involved in this community, whether it be Greer, Dolan, anyone, they are not genuine. The true whistleblowers are avoiding the disclosure movement at all costs and want to have nothing to do with it. The only people that you will see popping up are different people in the community who have different agendas or different spins on disclosure. Like, there are no negative ETs. They're finding people that will say what they want them to say, that are coming out, that have military backgrounds and maybe some connections. But I would not pay attention to anything. And I hate this. It sickens me to say this. Don't pay attention to anything coming out of the disclosure movement or the Patriot movement. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit or contrived or controlled. And that's the reason why Grush and this 40 other people are not coming out through Stephen Greer and the disclosure movement. He's not happy about it. It's not coming out through Dr. Sala or any of these people who have just really screwed up their own reputations and the reputation of this community. They're coming out through in a completely different way, divorced from this community. And they all have consciously decided not to come out through any part of this community. Therefore, anybody coming out through this community should be considered dubious or suspect in some way. And that pains me to say that, but that's where we are with disclosure right now.
So it is also, it's inspiring that there are actually whistleblower protections coming in place now. This is completely new, unprecedented.
We'll see. There's serious fighting going on in the background over this bill. So we'll see if it actually makes it out in a real meaningful way. They may change the language in it to basically keep the same protections into place. And we'll see how this whistleblower bill finally shapes up. We can do a couple more, and then, like I said, I'm not feeling well today. I'm going to need to go.
All right. There's a handful more here. Well, I could ask about how many human craft are using cloaking devices. And for example, the one that you used to go to the moon, was that cloaked as it got down to a certain elevation, or was it just cloaked the entire time?
Well, some of them have actual cloaking technology, and some of them, the electromagnetic corona field around the craft that's created basically has that same effect. It blurs details. So yeah, we have a lot of different craft, some of them more conventional even, that have different types of masking. It's what they call it, is masking. Um, and we have it on even ground vehicles. Masking is being used pretty widely right now.
We also got several questions about, we've gotten several questions about the process of clones and cloning technology. And that's a whole area of possible disinformation in the community, because we often hear reports of so-and-so is now a clone. And
That's one of the biggest things, if like I would have people come to me at a conference and they'd shake my hand and they're like, "Hi, I served with you in the secret space program. Do you remember me?" And then they had this look on their face like they're waiting for me to like either, "Oh, wait, maybe like what happens at the LARP conferences. They all do this with each other. Oh, and they all validate each other. And I have said no, and I'll say no, I don't recognize you, and they'll like try more and more and more because they want me to then start getting behind them, using their name and making them famous. And then when I don't do that for them, the next thing I know, I see them on a video saying, "Yeah, I met Corey, and he's a clone." So that's part of the problem with this community. There's so y'all will see someday in my reality TV show what we have dealt with, what Wilcock has dealt with, what James is writing a book, what we've dealt with. Unbelievable.
Well, specifically about the technology, were you made aware of cloning technology like that?
Yeah, cloning technology has been around for a while. That's what they do in a lot of these underground bases. They're cloning humans with other stuff. And they're not only cloning humans, they're cloning, like they'll get a biological sample that they traded something off for an ET group. And then, they start studying the genetics and properties and how it can be mixed with other species. A lot of these underground bases are developing different types of viruses and clones. It's something that's been going on for a long time. They've done some very, very disturbing stuff.
Are Sasquatch entities connected to the inner earth or the entrances to the inner earth?
I think that some of them live in cave systems, but whether they go all the way to the inner earth, I don't know. I didn't see anything like that. But yeah, I mean, they definitely live in caverns and that sort of thing. That's actually we're wanting to do a TV show on Bigfoot too, a pretty interesting one. So yeah, I definitely know that Bigfoot is real. But right now, would it be crazy within the same 5-year period that we find out that aliens are real and Bigfoot is real? What would that do to society? It's been ridiculed and chastised for so long. And what else is real? What else is possible once these things open up? That's why these disclosures are important, because of how it changes people's thought processes.
We had an interesting question here. Of all the things that you've seen not on Earth, what is one of the most beautiful things that you've ever seen, be it scientific or natural phenomenon?
Probably Jupiter, and also some of these weird etheric beings that feed off of strong magnetic fields that live in space.
Do the Mayans have their own planet now? Did they come from here to go to a different planet?
They have multiple planets, but they have one main planet that they inhabit, but it's like a refugee planet. That people are brought, all different types of beings are brought there to go through like different types of healing and they even do soul work on traumatized groups of people. So they've got a number of planets and moons that they inhabit and operate from.
Was it a solar event that drove them off Earth?
Well, they were only here but yeah, it was. But they were here as refugees for a period in South America, Central America, and they left before like certain cycles were starting back up in our solar system. The Earth has been used as a refugee planet for different human-like ET groups for a long time.
Maybe I should ask, why are there refugees? It's because of the work of the Orion group elsewhere in the star system or the galaxy, or is it because of the solar events?
Well, you have the galaxy can be a rough place just naturally. You know, cataclysms happen on a large scale sometimes. Stars get to a point to where they're about to die, you know, and they have to take people and put them on a planet until they find a more suitable place for them. So, you know, it's, you know, there are natural disasters that occur, you know, throughout our galaxy that affect entire civilizations, and some would destroy civilizations if they weren't saved.
Are the energies of the sun causing us to age faster?
Yes.
Does that mean that we could shield ourselves more from that and be healthier?
That's one of the reasons these ET groups end up going into the Earth to survive. They come out for recreation kind of stuff, but they spend most of their time deep within their planet, which buffers a lot of those energies. But yeah, it is our star is what ages us. It is our star. It determines how we age and how quickly.
We had one question that they're using the word arc, but they're talking about Antarctica too, and I think that they're talking about whether or not these motherships that you've talked about in Antarctica, are those ever going to be used again or useful?
No, they're stripped. They're stripped down. You know, they're really of no use other than structures on the ground now. And let's do one more, and then I need to go.
All right. This person asks, what is the meaning of life?
Only you can answer that. Only you, because everybody has a different experience. So there's no one answer for that.
All right. It was a pleasure, Corey. Thank you so much for sharing your time again. And I hope to see you again very soon here, get a lot more questions in about the other SSP updates that we haven't covered yet. And I'm sure people will enjoy that once we get those videos rolled out. Hopefully by the end of the month, we'll start rolling out with more of those.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you again, guys. And as always, keep on submitting questions on the website. Make sure you're on Corey's email list if you're not yet. You can just go to essentialworks.tv and just fill out the form right on the front page if you haven't done that yet. So we'll get you informed on all these meetings and everything.
Very cool. All right, everyone, have a great week, and thank you for tuning in.